It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the great introduction, Randy. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about homelessness and this journey that I've been on, and I'm wanting to illuminate something that's been prevalent in my life and my walk since 2014, and how God's moved in that. And then I want to invite you into it. And there's a very practical way that you can be invited into this thing. But the interesting thing is this spectrum that Randy just talked about was really what I was going to lead off in. So good job. I'll feed you a little bit of cash later for kicking that one right out. No, I'm just kidding. But the point is this spectrum. Where do you fall on? You don't have to answer it for me, but it's been my experience that everybody falls somewhere pretty polarized, actually, when it comes to homelessness. I've met folks that are very compassionate towards them, that want to just give and give and give. And there's a pretty good group of folks that do that. There's debate, there's arguably some harm in that. There's also a lot of compassion in it. And then you have the other side of the spectrum where it's, why don't they get cleaned up, get a job, go do something with their life, instead of being a problem for us in our cities and in our streets and et cetera. So the spectrum is there, but the common ground on that spectrum is that it's very ill-informed. The problem of homelessness is very ill-informed. And frankly, the way out of it is quite simple. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happened in my life to see that play out and what we can do about it. And so what I want you to do is, regardless of what spectrum side you're on, let's focus in on the fact that there's some information or there's some education surrounding this issue that really unites us on that polarization. It really brings us to the middle of what to do about it. This morning, as we're sitting here enjoying breakfast and enjoying fellowship and discussing this issue within a 1 mile radius of us, how many folks do you think are not experiencing breakfast, not experiencing fellowship, not having a place to live, right? And we can guess at numbers. Possibly 200. Could be less, could be more. But we know that they're there, right? But we get up in the morning, I got up this morning, and I go start getting ready for what we were going to do this morning, and I'm immediately barraged by, let's be frank about it, the devil is on the prowl. I'm immediately barraged by my own insecurities, my own challenges in life, my own worries, my own shortcomings, my own schedule for today, and what I've got to try and fit in and achieve and who I've got to talk to and et cetera. Also my own strengths, right? Things that and I believe that we all do this. The point is, I have a chance of making it today. I really do. I'm well fed. I connected with a friend from a long time. I'm dressed, cleaned, and I have a positive purpose for today. And at the end of the day, I have a safe place to go lay my head and process it and go, this went right, this went wrong, et cetera, pray and go to sleep and do it all over again, right? The people that within this mile radius that we could guess about do not have that. They have the same enemy prowling for them, but they don't have the stability of what I got to experience and what I'm going to get to experience today. And until we start putting in ways for people to do this, strategically, practically, and effectively do it, they are not going to come out of homelessness. It's really difficult to do so. Extremely difficult to do so. And so with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about what our role could be in that, right? What this group of people under God's care and provision, what we can do to be involved in that. And it takes us back to a Gleanings principle. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about Gleanings because this is what's happened to me since 2014 when I was sitting in my armchair at home and really wrestling with what was the next step. I was coming up on retirement from the Navy, wanting to be involved in God's kingdom work, and frankly learned that when you want to, I knew this already, I'd learned this already. When you want something from God, you ask him frankly, and then listen, right? And so in my armchair, I said, all right, God, I see what you're doing in the world. I see the problems. I want in the game. That was my exact prayer. I want in the game. He's been faithful ever since in tremendous ways, not just in blessing, not just in growing my ministry opportunities, but also in loss and grief and problems. It put me straight into it. And so I want to talk a little bit about how the ministry has grown in God's provision of Gleanings. And when we talk about Gleanings, this principle it's sort of an old and dated principle, right? What does abundance look like? So on the screen you can see two boxes, right? And I'm gonna expand on this idea of two boxes, but this is really a mindset idea that I'm wanting you guys to sort of picture as I walk through this with you, right? It's how big is your field? How big is the field that you're working right now? And how big could it be? And the difference between these boxes are profound. It begs the question, how many people glean off of you? And how many talents did God give you? Right? Because there's this parable of talents that Jesus talked about. But if you really drill down into the parable of talents, it's striking what he says. It's not really a nice story at all. I mean, I know we use it in conjecture, we sort of use it flippantly, but it's not an easy saying. So, starting with those boxes, Leviticus 19:9. You're all familiar with the principle of gleanings, right? Leave the edges of the field, leave some of the fruit unripened, right? So that you leave them for the poor and the sojourner, right? Neither shall you gather the gleanings after your harvest. The principle here is that you leave it there so that people are able to come up and work for or to achieve their own sustenance. All right? That's the typical way to look at this. I want to also flip it a little bit, though, and think about the landowner. We don't often talk about the landowner, do we? God gave us land to work, and he gave us economy, and he gave us each other to barter and trade with and fellowship with, right? And so in this gleanings principle, we have to talk about the landowner, the farm owner. We all have things that we own. And yet, what he's essentially saying throughout this principle about gleanings is, if you're working your land, if you're working your field to the point of gleaning out things for people to come and be a part of, right? Then you're using your talents wisely. And what does he do? In my life, what he's done when I've done this is he's grown my field. So instead of having a little field, right? Let's go back to it. Page up. Instead of having this little field with the edges, you get it now? The orange box around it? My field is growing to this big one, and my edges are getting bigger, right? Not just in area, but also in size of what the gleanings looks like, right? And I have no doubt that if I continue to let people glean into this and I keep driving towards this principle, that he's going to make my fields bigger until I go home, right? We were talking at the table earlier about the fact that there's an article that I bumped into a few years ago. It's called 10 Big Daily Reminders. And it's written by a gentleman that really reads through these 10 reminders on a daily basis to remind him about some truths. And there's 2 of them that are key truths. The rest of the 8 sort of build off of it. The first one is, God exists, right? Second one is, I think we all believe that in here. The second one is, we will die, right? And if those 2 are true, which I believe they are, I'm pretty sure nobody's made it out of this alive except for Jesus, praise God. If those are true, then the rest of the 8 build off of that. But the point is that My point to you is, when we ascend into repentance and a belief in Jesus Christ and followership of his ways, if that was it, if salvation was it, we're done. We go home. It's not it. He leaves us here to work a field. So that's what I want to build off of today. This is my story. This is what I believe, and this is what I believe God has been blessing along the way, and also taking away in order to bless others or teach or work in me. So let me take you on this journey. 2015, I had a year left in the Navy. Was invited to join this board of a failing nonprofit in Hanford. They wanted to turn it into a homeless rescue mission, faith-based Christian homeless rescue mission. I joined the board. There was 3 others that stayed with me. It was a room of about 25 people that heard how this thing was failing. 4 of us stayed and said, okay, we'll give it a try. In June of 2015, we started King's Gospel Mission with 3 staff, 4 board members, 6 clients, and about $15,000 left in the bank. And began this journey about how do you take care of homeless people. Well, I mean, I was a military officer. I've never met a homeless person in my life up to that point. I had an interest in joining a board. I had an interest in learning greater ways of leadership, right? Navy had taught me a lot of stuff about being a leader, but not in the nonprofit world and not in the business world, right? This is a government and a military organization. So basically, I needed to show up every day when I was working at King's Gospel Mission, humble, submitted, and asking God to guide me, give me wisdom. What do I need to do next? And on the days that I did that really well, it was a very key thing that happened to me, was on the days that I thought I had it figured out and I would go in with an agenda, they just went haywire. But on the days when I walked in and I went, I'm just flabbergasted today at all of the things that need to be accomplished in a part-time deal while I'm finishing out my last year of the Navy and trying to get this nonprofit off the ground, I would literally walk in the door and go, God, I have no idea where to even start today, right? Let me just go down the litany of things a nonprofit has to take care of. Fundraising, stewardship, employees, payroll, client care, client engagement, community engagement, facilities. The list is really long, really complex, right? So walk in and go, God, I'm at a loss today. I just need you, right? And on those days were the days that God showed up biggest, and I had the best time, right? Just one thing after another lined up, right? And we moved the needle so much further, right? So when people say approach it humbly, I believe it, because what we're doing there is we're relying on God. The next step for us is about a year later, we added in room and board. We started off with a discipleship academy, and what we learned was there were people that were coming up and staying with us in an emergency shelter and going into the academy that just frankly needed a place to live. Well-adjusted, didn't need to go into a 1-year intensive discipleship. They already were doing well in their life. They just needed a safe place to call home. So we started this room and board. And the interesting thing is the mission got a little bit bigger, right? The next thing is we had this opportunity to provide jobs and purposeful, positive activities in somebody's day, right? And so we were really searching for that, because what we found was people were going into academy, a discipleship academy, and learning about God and learning about their challenges with substance abuse, with poor relationships, with poor choices in the past, with the restlessness. And men needed to do something during the day to process what they're learning in the morning and process what has happened during the day previous. And the best way to do that is at work. So we went to work putting together a social enterprise. We debated about thrift, we debated about some other stuff, and then this opportunity came up about, well, maybe we could do recycling center. And through the Center for Community Transformation and an introduction or partnership that I'd already sort of built with Randy, we had had applied for this grant with Spark Tank. It seeded money for us to start a recycling center at King's Gospel Mission. And now folks have a safe place to live, and they have a positive, purposeful activity. And now we're starting to build community around people coming and shopping us, right? They're coming to drop off their cans. We're processing it. The people who are homeless are working it. And then they're being blessed by having something to do as they're processing some of their deep hurts. But the big one is, the community started to grow. You got a group of people who are shopping, you got a group of people who are working, and a group of people who are needing shelter and positive activities during the day, but they all sort of started to meld together, right? Then we added a thrift store. 14 staff, 24 clients, 1,000 customers. These are all sort of guesstimates at this point. I mean, they're guesstimations. Budget grew. Then we added women's and these carts and this recuperative care, right? And then the big one hit. I'm going to go back a little bit on that one, okay? I wanted you guys to see. Do you see what's happening here? Each step along the way, the field is growing, right? And it's because of this willingness, I think, on the part of my staff and on my part and really God leading in our lives to keep working the field and keep letting opportunities happen so that we can grow into new ventures that people can grab onto and they can glean on our edges, and then they become part of this growth. So where are we at now? This is sort of today. At some point I added the lighthouse. I was asked to start leading the lighthouse in Tulare, right? We had the opportunity to have some land gifted to us in South Hanford. We've added some homes we're currently adding homes into that so that people have safe places to live. A couple of years ago, God put it on my heart that if I'm having troubles getting people to come out of homelessness and stay employed and have safe places to live, we need to grow jobs and we need to grow housing. And so I undertook this effort to, if we need more housing, and housing's really hard to build. It's really hard to build. It costs a lot of money to do it. And then if you put the term affordable on it, you have people show up with pitchforks. So it's even better, right? It's even more fun. So if you've got to figure out a way to get the cost of housing to go down, and if you can do that, it creates jobs. I figured, well, let's start this next thing called Prefab Innovations, where we build houses and provide jobs, right? And God's been able to grow that. And where are we going this year? I haven't finished this slide because I don't want to finish it. I don't want to see what God's going to do over the next few years. I just want to show up every day and go, I'm going to work my field. But potentially we could have courtyards in Fresno. We could have courtyards in the South Valley. We could have 1,000 jobs going at my plant down here in south of Chuck Chansey Stadium. The point is, and what I'm wanting to impart on you today, is that there's no easy answer to homelessness, and there's no easy answer to every day when we wake up and we go, God, what do you have for me today? But what we can do is show up with a willingness to go, I don't know where to begin, but I know there's some stuff going on. And so asking God's wisdom daily to be involved, or even just having a big one and saying, God, put me in the game, and then listening and letting him roll. This has been my story. It's been my journey, and he's been faithful all along the way. And I don't think he's done yet. Because when he's done, see ya. I'm going home, right? Some of the things I learned along the way that I just wanted to talk to you about, I wanted to encourage you about. People in homelessness have a tremendous amount of barrier to their lives. Tremendous amount. If I put 100 homeless people in this room for you all to listen to their stories, you'd hear 100 different circumstances, 100 different reasons. There's not a broad brushstroke, okay? A prevailing brushstroke right now is cost of housing is pushing people out of stability. And in order for us to even stymie the flow, we have to start putting in affordable housing in a much greater fashion. The government's not going to fix this. I'm going to talk about that a little bit here in a minute. But remove barriers. So how do you remove barriers in people's lives? You pray. You pray for God's strength. So that when there's challenges that you think are insurmountable, you lean on God's promises that if you pray and ask, He can move mountains for you. Right? Go deeper into issues. If there's something that you think is intractable or it's frustrating to you, don't polarize in that. You can. I think actually polarization is a good thing. I think we have to be polarized to go, this is what I believe, this is what I don't believe. But we also have to be willing to go, maybe I was wrong on that one. And so that's praying for wisdom, right? If you're stuck in, why don't they get a job? They're irritating to me. Why is this thing a problem for us? Et cetera, then pray for wisdom. Seek the wisdom. Because I think God is faithful to illuminate some of the problems that are going on, right? Connect people to their purpose. Pray for people you don't understand. We all need to have a purpose. I think when you meet somebody that's disconnected from their purpose, you have an opportunity to pray for them. You have an opportunity to understand them. You have an opportunity to grow in a relationship with someone that's different from you. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. See business in abundance. Sun principle. I think this is something we have a tendency as human beings to live in scarcity, right? We have a tendency to think that God doesn't provide abundantly for us. But every day, there's this ball of fire that comes up on us and provides all of the energy that we need to work, right? If we would just embrace the abundance that God gives us every day, and it really comes from some very basic things, right? The sun rising, all the resources that come from that, and our ability to just work, to just plow ahead in His strength, in His wisdom, and in His will. There's no scarcity. There's not any. There just isn't. Scarcity is a myth that the devil wants us to live in. So the Gleanings principle, again, is this belief that if we just work hard with what we have, we work it really well, He has an abundant way of growing it into more for us to work. And then see business as opportunity for others. Our work daily is meant to create a greater opportunity for somebody else, right? How many of you are business owners in here? Just raise your hands. Let me see a hand. Okay. A lot of people relying on you, right? A lot of people earn paychecks off of business owners. How many of you are managers? A lot of responsibility, right? How many of you are employees? Right? A lot of responsibility because there's people relying on you to do your art, to do your skill, right? Work, business is an opportunity for us to bless others. Okay, let's talk about applying this. Right now, I believe this is the current picture that we're seeking, that we're dealing with. The box represents people who need affordable housing. Poor, homeless, widow, orphan, veteran, hungry, underemployed, bored. Boredom's a big one. I could talk about that one for about an hour. Unmentored, trafficked, substance abuser, released convict, aged out youth. What I mean by that is folks that were foster children, aged out and told, you no longer can live here. There's a lot of people that are homeless that had that happen to them. How miserable is that? Battered women, migrant workers, and a whole lot more. Okay? That's what the black box represents. Right now, the government has the biggest chunk and is trying to get that blue box around that whole issue. And frankly, they can't do it. They can't do it. I know H is working really hard, and I have a great deal of amount of respect for him. He ain't going to be able to do it. Are you going to be able to do it, H? The mayor, he ain't going to be able to do it. The government's not the answer for this. The church has a little piece of this, okay? What about if the church actually got engaged in this? The biggest multi-department, what did you say, H? Is it the biggest multi-level department in the city of Fresno, right? Or multi-department agency. Right, I love that. I'm going to nail it one of these days. anyways, but his point is true, right? If we were all involved in this, we have the biggest organization in any city, in any state, in this country, right? And the church is the answer to that box, but we've got a long way to go. And so, what's the solution to this? Well, you've got a handful of agencies that are doing really good work, right? Fresno Mission, Poverello House, RH Community Builders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of good agencies that are doing good work, but they need to have a back door. They have front doors. They have people that are coming in and they're becoming successful, but they don't have enough jobs and they don't have enough safe places for people to call home and enough affordable homes, options for people to go into. And so really the opportunity here is that we can do a few things. One is we can donate, we can give our time, talent, and resources to one of these organizations. Number two is you can actually come and build what could be a shelter for somebody, and that's what this card is on the table here. It's called Pocketeer Program. It's an invitation for Saturdays for you to come down to the factory and build homes. They're little homes, 12 by 12, could sleep 2 people, that could potentially become a shelter for somebody, and then those units go to a property where people can live in it, and it's administered by people who understand homelessness, right? It's an opportunity for you to be involved in this. It's on the table right there. As a church group, you could host a site for affordable housing. You could sponsor a site for affordable housing, sponsoring being working the land, providing resources, investing in affordable housing growth. Anyways, social enterprise businesses. If you want to learn more about that, Randy's your man. He knows all about that stuff and can help guide you in how to put that together. Point is, the church, if we would be involved in this, will outpace the government and grow its field and its gleanings tremendously. It's a principle of growth. God is abundant for us, and he's available to us to do this if we would get involved in it. And so to end this, because I'm getting the high sign, I want you guys to listen to the parable of talents and what Jesus says. And I'm not going to read it all right here. You all can go and read. I'd encourage you to pay go slow on this. Pay real close attention to what God is saying to us. 10 talents. 2 talents and 1. There's 5, 2, and 1 on this one. The other one has 10, 5, and 1. Anyways, the 5 turns it into another 5. The 2 turns it into another 2. The 1 says, "You're harsh, I'm scared, I buried it." Right? You're harsh, I'm scared, I buried it. I did this. I held on to it because I was scared. Right? And what does he say at the end? He says, "Give it to the one I gave the most to, who did the most with it." Right? And throw this one out where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Right? It's not an easy thing to hear. Not an easy thing to take in. If we're doing this, God is telling us, I'm going to throw you out. I'm not giving you any more. Keep fighting for it. Keep grabbing at it. Right? But he's saying, if you're willing to take what I've given you and invest it, I'll give you more. I'll give you more. And I'll give you more. This has been my story. And I want you guys to understand that all along the way, look at these boxes that he's grown, just showing up. And he's not done yet. We need to get in, folks. We need to get in. And I'm inviting you to be in that. I'm inviting you into a greater conversation with me about how to be involved in that. But mostly I'm asking you to ask God to put you in. Thank you very much for your time.